All right, says recording up in the corner. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this video. I am, your professor, Harley, and joining us today is Golda Obinzu, the Energy Manager for the City of San Antonio Office of Sustainability. She has prepared a lovely presentation for us about herself and her work, so I'm going to let her take it from here.
Great. Thank you so much, Harley. Good afternoon, everyone. What I will be presenting today is just to give you kind of an overview, pretty much a high level of energy management here within the Office of Sustainability. I'm going to run through my slide and just hopefully from this presentation, you get a bit more or a sense of what energy management is, what it means, and in the context of what we do for the city here within the Office of Sustainability. The presentation overview, I'm just going to give you just some tad bits about me. I'm going to share with you my background as it relates to my education. Then I'm just going to take you through my career path and the current role that I play here at the city. Then I'm going to tie it into pretty much energy management and kind of what that means via the Energy Efficiency Fund. Well, I'll tell you more about what that is and how that plays a role. Then I'm going to go into the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, the CAP strategies, and municipal operations, how that relates to energy management and the city municipal buildings. And lastly, I will give you a summary of energy projects completed, kind of how it ties into the Energy Efficiency Fund and how it helps the goals of the CAP strategies. So just a couple of tidbits about me, my background. I do have an MBA with a finance concentration with the University of Texas at San Antonio. I completed that in 2006. I also have an undergrad, Bachelor of Science degree in Architectural Engineering from the Milwaukee School of Engineering. I know I don't look it, but I graduated November of 1999. So I've been out of school a while. I have over 20 years of experience. So a lot of people would tell me I don't look my age, but I am also a licensed professional engineer within the state of Texas. It is under mechanical engineering. You can go architectural engineering route, but what I mainly focus on is mechanical engineering, specifically HVAC and the building indoor air quality and HVAC system. I'm also a certified energy manager through the Association of Energy Engineers, and I'm also a LEED accredited professional. LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, and I do have a specialty in building design and construction. And so what I wanted to share with you today, I wanted to take you through my career path and then what my current role is at the city. I started in June of 1999 as an energy engineer intern at Johnson Controls. Johnson Controls is a Fortune 500 company. It's located in, its headquarters is in Milwaukee. When I was going to school there, I got an internship position there. And before graduation or right after graduation, really, I accepted a position in the San Antonio office. So I've been in San Antonio, and while I was there, I did energy engineer work, and it was mainly with schools, with local government, as far as energy upgrades on their facilities. So you can go and do energy audits. You look at what the building is utilizing. You benchmark what an efficient building should be using, and then you develop strategies and you develop what should be done, what type of savings. And my role was mainly calculating the savings. I did have a class in college, energy management, and I learned a lot there. And that's basically what I did. I calculated if you implemented these type of energy reduction strategies, what you would save over the long run. After Johnson Controls, I was hired on with the county. At the time, it was their infrastructure services department. now they have a facility department, but I was hired on as their energy manager and pretty much did the same thing. There, I was responsible for the county facilities and to implement, to have an energy policy. I created one to implement savings and also to keep track of that. And then that I came to work for the city. And like, once again, pretty much doing the same thing, but the city is a lot larger as far as the amount of facilities. The city is a lot larger than the county. So now I am running the energy management program and being able to implement energy efficient upgrades on municipal facilities. So at least I wanted to go over on the right-hand side that my current role and responsibilities, it's reducing and conserving the energy usage of all city-owned assets. Creating policy. Right now, we are in the process of creating an energy policy that will be for our municipal operations and to guide us on our municipal buildings. I do perform energy and engineering analysis. Sometimes we bring in engineers or third-party engineers to help us. If we need plans or drawings or specification, we rely on them to do that. I do make recommendations as far as what we should be doing in our buildings. And my next slide will talk about a vehicle that I use via the Energy Efficiency Fund to help implement energy projects. And so one of the main thing that I'm responsible for is what's called the Energy Efficiency Fund, EEF for short. This is a type of vehicle, it's almost like a financing mechanism on how we can actually have projects implemented in municipal facilities, get the savings or the rebates from those projects and being able to revolve or put back the funds in it. That's why I have this this diagram here. You have your energy efficiency fund, and I have on the slide it was established in 2011 through an actual ordinance.
The city's energy efficiency fund was established through city ordinance in August of 2011, and it was created utilizing the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act of 2009. The city received around $34 million, and some of those funding was utilized to start and create this energy efficiency fund. Currently, the fund supports energy reduction projects on municipal facilities, and it also funds associated personnel costs out of that. Typically, the type of projects that we implement are your lighting retrofit, currently utilizing the LED type technology, HVAC replacements, any type of controls on the HVAC equipment, and then also retro commissioning. It's almost like a tune-up for buildings. You know how you tune up your cars? Retro commissioning is pretty much tune-up, and they have different levels for facilities. We also created an SOP, a standard operating procedure for this energy efficiency fund. This was necessary just to be able to lay out and establish what the funds would cover, how it can be used, what department was responsible for what, our budget department or the finance department, and then also to establish how savings would be verified and how the energy savings would be placed back into the fund. And so once again, I want to at least for us to go through this diagram that I have here. And it's basically, we have the energy efficiency fund, we implement projects, and theoretically you implement, let's just say, a lighting project on a facility. We know that we're gonna capture savings, we're gonna have energy savings, and also any rebates that CPS would give back to the city. And then the savings come back through our finance department, they place it back into the energy efficiency fund. And so theoretically, this becomes a revolving type loan. That's what it's usually referred to. But instead of going to an outside funding source, the city kind of does this pretty much internally, and we can recoup our savings and place them back into facilities. The next couple of slides, I wanted to just go over how energy management and the CAP are tied in. The next couple of slides, we've shared this with numerous folks about CAP and what it means for the city, and then I'm going to tie in what it means for municipal facilities and also energy management. Just a quick snapshot of this, the Paris Climate Agreement was signed on December 12, 2015. In June of 2017, the city adopted a resolution in support of the Paris Climate Agreement, right? And about 2 years later, the city, through council, again, adopted the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, the CAP. And the CAP is it's a guide to the city, and it's having us trying to reach a goal by 2050 to be carbon neutral. It requires us, we're trying to be adapt to the changing climate. We have to report our requirements, and then also too, we want to address climate equity with that. This is just a quick snapshot of what's in the plan. It's, we almost have two paths that's tracking alongside each other, the mitigation side and the adaptation side. Mitigation side is the actions to reduce or prevent emissions from greenhouse gases, and the adaptation sides are actions that help to reduce the negative effects of climate change. And I wanted to at least present the slide so that the CAP wanted to let you know that it's for the community, but there's also some things in here that's for the municipal operations, for the city facilities. We have 13 municipal strategies within the mitigation side of the CAP, and then we also have some municipal strategies within the adaptation. I wanted to at least show the city did do a study of the greenhouse gas emissions. It's in our CAP. It states that the city will do a periodic greenhouse gas emissions, both what the city is using, that's related to the community, and then also too what the city is doing internally, which is related to the municipal side. And as you can see, what I really want to point out with these two charts are building they use a lot of energy. And of course, they use energy by way of the CPS plants, the coal-fired plant, the natural gas-fired plant. They do have some renewables, some solar, and some wind. But for the most part, it's coal, it's natural gas that really generates our electricity. They're transmitted to our buildings, and then we use our cooling or our heating system, and then that's how we were able to at least, link the greenhouse gas emissions and building use. So you see, as far as community-wide for the city as a whole, building energy usage is about 44%, and transportation is right up there with it. When we drive back and forth to classes, when we drive from our homes, when we go to our jobs, transportation takes up 40%. So together, 84%. So building use, when you go into your homes or your schools, how the HVAC system is working. And then when you get into your car, how you're driving to and from. That's pretty big with the emissions for the city of San Antonio. On the municipal side, we have landfills, which are now closed, but they're still emitting greenhouse gas emissions. That takes up 41%, and then right behind that is the building and the facilities. That takes up 30% as a whole. And one of the things that the city is now pursuing is that we tend to believe that you can't improve what you don't measure. And we need to be able to measure how we're doing. We need to be able to what's called benchmarking, develop what you're using, how you're using it, and then to benchmark to compare yourself against something very similar. So we are in the midst of creating a policy. We haven't drafted it yet, but we're looking at the various elements of the policy and to be able to develop a benchmarking policy for the city. The city has always been ahead of the curve in benchmarking its facilities. that's pretty much the first thing that I do in our department. That's one of the things that we're charged with is all of the city facilities, anything that has a CPS meter or a SOS meter, we do benchmark that. We do track the energy use for those facilities. Another policy that we're looking at is to be EV and solar ready. We are working towards that. I know Harley, your professor, she's really working on that and is very involved in that part of the policy. And I placed this slide in here just so that you can see with the CAP goals and how we're going to get there. Right now, you know, we're not quite there yet, but to be able to get to carbon neutrality or zero by 2050, on average, we really have to decrease our energy use, our emissions, up to 5%, 4 to 5%. That's what we need to do. So I wanted to place this slide in here to at least show that it's going to be tough. We're going to really need to hit transportation. We're going to really need to put a dent in how we utilize the energy within our facilities. But of course, it can be done, right? It really can be done. And I think that what we learned from the big storm in February is that we really need to be able to watch how we use our energy in a time of emergency, in a time of just climate change. It's going to really call for us to be more aware of how we use our energy. And what I wanted to at least now tie in, you just saw the projection, you saw how we can get there. And this slide really shows, well, what has the city done so far in energy management? And of course, the main thing that we have done is utilizing this energy efficiency fund. And since it was created in about 2010 and really in our fiscal year 11, that's when we really started to ramp up and implement the various projects. And if you can see here, between fiscal year 11 and 12, we really started ramping up in the type of projects that we were able to complete. And if you look through all the way until from fiscal year 11 through fiscal year 19, we did a total of over 400, to be exact, 414 energy projects we have completed. And we've touched 190 city facilities. The majority of the projects that we have completed were really lighting. Lighting is what's called your low-hanging fruit. You know, you can go from a fluorescent fixture now to LEDs, and you can get almost even 50% reduction in your energy use. So we have done that. We have also completed projects such as HVAC upgrades, HVAC controls. We've done some solar, and we've done some window film. And so we pretty much, as far as project costs, we spent over $9 million on projects. And now the city is realizing on an annual basis almost $1.6 million in avoided costs, and costs that we would have incurred if we did not do these projects. And we have received over $3 million in rebates. So when you look at what the city spent, what we received in rebates, and then what our annual avoided costs are, we've since seen almost just under a 4-year payback, which is very good. So really wanted to at least show what the city is doing as far as energy management. What we have seen since our fiscal year 2019, we have seen almost a 16% reduction in our energy use for our facility. And we know with the pandemic, in our fiscal year 20, our fiscal year runs from October 1st of current year to the September 30th of the following year, just to explain that. But we've seen with the pandemic that reduction will be down, but of course we're gonna head back to the office soon, or people are gonna start entering our facilities, and so we need to kind of get back on that. But at least this shows kind of where the city is, and that we are making progress to help implement that goal of carbon neutrality by 2050. And that concludes my presentation.
Golda, this is absolutely amazing. It's nice to see. I mean, we worked together and I learned something new. I do have two questions for you, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
Since you make energy in like these big commercial buildings that do all sorts of things from housing tons of employees to, HVAC units, all sorts of stuff, are there any things that you would like to encourage our students to do who may be young homeowners or who may be leasing or anything like that? What can they do in their lives to conserve more energy in their own way?
Thank you. I think that's a great question because, of course, we are the users of the energy. And so, yes, to be able to get to that path of carbon neutrality, we would also have to do something. So I believe one of the first thing, we're all under, we have a home to go to, whether it's an, home that you live with your parents or you live by yourself or an apartment, wherever. I believe that the first thing is if you're not using something, you can turn it off. I know that temperature settings for some folks, that might be, well, I like it this temperature versus that temperature. I believe the easiest thing that you can do is if you're not using this piece of equipment or that piece of equipment, you can actually turn it off. As far as your HVAC system, if you somehow can control how that's being utilized, I would say in the summertime, if you're not at your home, you can adjust that temperature a little. If you like it at 70, I'm not going to tell you, well, you should, to save energy, you can put it at 75. If you're comfortable at 70, you can do that. But then also, too, if you're going to go to class or if you're going to go to work, you can also, through a simple programmable thermostat, or, if you don't have that, you can just manually adjust it. But when you're not at home, you can adjust that temperature. So your equipment would not have to run as much. If you're also in control of your equipment, and mainly it's the HVAC system, it's your cooling system, because we're in South Texas, so we utilize that a lot. If you can at least have it serviced twice a year, with the change in season, and just making sure that it is running efficiently. Again, that tune-up, you can tune up your car, but you can also have your system tuned up. So at least it can run longer, it can run more efficient. So I think those are some basic things. And of course, Harley, this is your field as far as how you're driving back and forth. I know the pandemic, and that has really just, a lot of us now we're at home. So I think that continuing to do that and kind of watch, how you utilize your vehicle too, I think that can also help. But as far as the HVAC system inside your home, adjust it if you're not at home. Other ancillary equipment, if you're not using it, you can just unplug it. Yeah.
And you mentioned thermostats being a big point. We bought a house last year and it had just like a traditional thermostat on it. And I was really wanting one of those smart thermostats. And I didn't know that CPS Energy offers a rebate for them. So they definitely do their best to lessen the financial burden and make it easier for you to make sustainable decisions, because not only are you saving energy when you're turning off things when you're not using, you're saving money.
Yes, that is true.
So it's great. And then I do have one more question, and I'll cut this part out. If you decide that you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to talk about it. We can cut it.
No problem.
It's about the February storm. So if you're like, I don't want to, I'll cut it.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned a little bit about energy conservation. And you mentioned the February storm. I wanted to talk maybe a little bit about energy resilience, and if you have any work that you do with the city's energy resilience, or maybe how you see resilience for energy looking in the future.
Okay. I would say as far as what I'm charged with, it's not on the side of resiliency. I know that our director, the chief sustainability officer, he's working on that, and probably through the Office of Emergency Management. I do believe that we're trying to just work out how the city can be more resilient. Because I know that the February storm kind of showed us, we can do better, right? Without, saying this way or that way. It's just, we know that we can do better. Resilience, it can come in the form of, the winter storm, but then also too, when it's too hot, it can be very overwhelming on the CPS grid system if it's too hot or too cold. And I think resiliency plays an important role because, during those times, we know that we can do our best to, we're already in that mindset of conserving the energy. And then, of course, if we go days on end, we need to put things in place of, okay, if we get to 1 week without power or, we have to do this or do that, we need to be able to have those clear processes in place. Let's just say we have a emergency or it's too hot. We go 2 months in a triple-digit weather. What are the city's cooling centers? Where can you go to be able to at least have some cooling be available to you? I think that for the winter storm, we were kind of caught off guard. I know that, cities in the north like Minnesota or Chicago, they're probably a bit more resilient than we are because they see that a lot, right? So even the way that facilities are built, how wires are protected or how pipes are built, the type of material that they use up north are not what we use down here. So I just believe that the storm just kind of showed us that, we may not see one again, but it's almost like we need to prepare and have some type of plan on how we're going to be resilient in that end. And hopefully the city and CPS and even SAWS, we work together to be able to have a plan on path going forward. As far as the municipal side, our maintenance department, which is building and equipment services department, I believe that they are also working to see how for the city facilities, how they can be more resilient in that.
Great. Yeah, I knew there was a lot of talk after the storm, and I mean, a lot of our students had, the same issues that everyone else had. So it's kind of nice to see that we don't know what the answer is, but there has to be an answer because this can't continue to happen, whether it's too hot or too cold.
Yes, but, and one thing, well, I also want to chime in. One thing that the storm also showed us too, because we lost power intermittently, but also too water, how the two, they're dependent on each other, right? SAWS is CPS biggest customer, and CPS is SAWS biggest customer. So for their generation of power, they use a lot of water. For running the pump stations and all of that, SAWS use a lot of power. So it's almost like when those things were out of sync and you're not only cold in your home, but you also don't have any water, I think that storm really showed us how important that the link is and how important that all of us got to work together to be able to make it resilient. So just wanted to add that.
No, that's a great relationship. I don't think a lot of people realize that because we kept power but lost water. And we lost power a little bit, but we lost water immediately, and we didn't have it back for, I think, a week and a half.
Yeah.
Interesting to see the relationship between both of the utilities and how if one is struggling or has a failure, it very immediately affects the other. But yeah, thank you so much for your time and for your information. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.
Thank you.